Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show. Hello.
Hello.
Caught you off guard there. Caught you off guard, didn't I? Yeah. Just moved my microphone nice and close. There we go. How have you been?
Morning.
Oh,
I was doing the good morning thing.
Good evening.
Good afternoon.
Good day.
Goodness.
Lockness.
He's got me. Lockness. Well, yes.
Excellent.
How am I doing? Well, I'm doing the Benji and Nick show with you, Benji, and I'm Nick.
Oh, well, I'm Benji, and I suppose because I'm doing it with you too. How exciting. And for those of you who don't know what we do, we talk cult television and a lot of other sort of general rubbish, really. Just
General rubbish.
Private detective, you name it, we talk it. And yes, I suppose it's just what we're good at, isn't it? Prattling on,
Well,
really.
I wouldn't go so far as to boast that.
Well, I think we're good at prattling on.
Well, if you say so. Now, this week, we are having a look at some of your emails. We're also talking about what we have seen on television, recently.
Correct.
And we'll be talking to Jamie Anderson, son of Jerry Anderson, for no good reason.
We
Except
certainly
that he was
will.
his father.
We just like to pester him. We picked him as the person that has to suffer the weekly phone calls. And
I've no idea whether he'll be in or not. But anyway, so what have you been watching this week?
What have I
recently
been watching this week? Good question. Well, going on with the cult television theme, I've actually been watching The Tripods again. I love it so much, and I've just been having an absolute blast today.
You'd have to pay me to watch that.
Oh, it's brilliant though. It's really good. It's one of those shows. Like the first episode's a bit pokey here and there, but I love it.
Pokey. Pokey means small to me.
Well, yeah. Well, I just say a bit pokey, bit rubbish. The first episode, not a lot goes on, but I like it because
boring,
it's sort of got like a nice adventure feel to it. You feel you're going on an adventure with them, and yes, the acting isn't so great, but it gets better as it goes along. But I just like it.
Going in the right direction.
I just really enjoy it. I always have done. The music is superb by Ken Freeman, who, interestingly enough, he invented the Freeman strings machine, which was the first ever synthesized string machine of all time.
Wow.
So
does he use it in Tripods?
No, because time's obviously gone on since then. I think Tripods, it's all like Roland D50 or Yamaha DX7. But great fun.
Yeah,
So I watched that a little bit. Yeah, you might not have known that.
How many episodes are there of that rubbish?
About 12. 12 per season. Series 2 is dreadful.
There's two.
So Series 2 is terrible.
I remember there being a lot of bubble wrap in Series 2.
Yeah, not good, not fun. It gets too the appeal for me of. I suppose the thing is, it's once you stop comparing it to something like War of the Worlds, with the tripods thing, is when you kind of get into it. For me, it's not about the tripods; it's about the world. Of these enslaved creatures and how it's all set, and even though it's the future, they're not embracing technology. So I love all that, and it's got everything's backwards, and they've never seen like they find a hand grenade, and one of them takes out the pin and just holds it, thinks it's junk, and throws it over his shoulder. Says, it's just rubbish, isn't it? Then of course it explodes. But I just like it. I've got a lot of I don't know, I've seen it so many times, and I just love it more and more every time I watch it.
Has it ever been publicly admitted that basically what the author did was read War of the Worlds, and there's that bit where the artilleryman talks about the kind of what the world will be after the Martians have invaded, and how human beings will be, pets of the Martians, as it were, and cultivated by them and live under them, and has it ever been acknowledged that that's basically the author of the Tripods just nicked that paragraph out of War of the Worlds and made a series of books out of it?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I think there's. I don't know. I'm sure I read something about that he acknowledges that it's kind of, it came from there, but he didn't really think about it. If that makes sense. But again, I
but
think
that's no defence in a court of law, is it? Really?
Well, no, but it's.
I imagine that H.G. Wells was still in copyright. Well, he would have still been in copyright when these books were written, because he only came out of copyright just recently. So I'm surprised there was never any legal action by the H.G. Wells estate. Because also, you see, he could have got away with it if he'd just not call it the tripods, if the aliens weren't enormous tripod things, because that's the thing that... I mean, am I barking up the wrong tree here? There are loads of people listening thinking, no, this has all been dealt with, Nick. There's no problem at all. But it's always struck me that it's just Nick's H.G. Wells' idea.
I think undoubtedly the concept of those tripods, I think you can't defend that. But equally, I kind of just don't think it's kind of, although it's about that, it's kind of not about that really. It's the idea of capping and having the aliens they put a thing on your head to control your thoughts.
I remember that,
and to sedate you so that you can't think for yourself. It's more about that than the tripods, really. It's about. Yeah, but he called it the tripods. I know he did. I'm not John Christopher, Nick. I think undoubtedly.
But where is he?
Is he still alive? No, he died in 2012.
Oh.
That's something I'll have to look up. What does it say on his? Does it say anything about it on his Wikipedia?
I must try and watch it again, because I just remember really hating it, as you can tell by the vehemence in my voice.
It's just. But I suppose it's because you love H.G. Wells, don't you? You're a big War of the Worlds guy. But it's just. But
also, I didn't like it because I just thought it was dull and boring, and it was in the Doctor Who slot, and it annoyed me that Doctor Who wasn't on. It's all those silly emotional reasons. Really.
It's just one of those things.
I remember the acting being terrible.
Well, that's one of the weird things about it. So I'll answer these two questions. Dull and boring. It's dull and boring to an extent, but for me, I like it because it's very traditional adventure. They're going on. They're two young boys, later joined by the third, and they're going from a little village in England, and they're going into France, and they've got to get to the White Mountains, which I presume is Switzerland.
I remember all this. I must have watched it. I remember all this. Yeah.
But it's just all about them encountering new things and strange customs. And if you've never heard of the concept of France before, like the concept that there are people that speak another language, but all they know is that, all they actually know is they need to escape and get there before they get capped, because like they've got a young inventor who he can't bear the thought of being capped because he will no longer be able to invent things. He said that people he has seen that once they're capped, they lose their curiosity with the world. And the other two boys, they notice that their friends, when they grow up, their friends stop being fun and just want to work and get married. And so it's about them going, and it's just, I love it. I like that.
Yeah, but I mean, I love all the sound of that. I just remember not enjoying it, so it must have been the way it was done or the stupid mood I was in at the time.
The acting in it isn't great, and I will say that, but having said that, and it's I suppose one of the real tragedies that there wasn't a series 3, because the young actors, they started off and it was pretty wooden, but by the end of it they were all doing quite well, and they came on a lot.
I thought they'd got good before they got the job.
Well, there is.
Call me old-fashioned. I'd like them to be good enough to do the job in the first place, rather than us have to sit through them learning how to do the job they're paid for.
The main guy is really good, I think. I think he's good right from the off. The guy who plays Henry, his brother, is very wooden, as is the guy who
Isn't there one called Beanpole or Goggles or something?
Beanpole, yes, the inventor. Does
he wear the glasses?
He wears the glasses. He's from France and doesn't. Yep. And he doesn't.
Wasn't he particularly rubbish as well?
Well, you wouldn't really believe he's from France. He sort of talks like this all the time, and yes, that is something. I come from France, and it's not great.
So what you're saying, it's not a French actor.
It's not a French actor, no.
A fractor. As we call them in the Brexit tradition.
But it's great. It's got some good matte painting work. I love the feel of it. It feels lovely.
It pioneered paint box, didn't it? Which was the new go-to effect in those days for superimposing stuff.
It did, and it does a really good job of it, actually.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to be so horrid about.
Well, it's one of those ones. It isn't for everyone.
I've got to watch it again, haven't I? Yeah.
But having said that, I remember the first time I watched it, I was this is amusing. Not to blow my own trumpets at this point, but I'm going to anyway. I was at college at the time, and I bought the DVD of no, it wasn't a DVD. It was the video from, because we used to go to the Video Man he was in the market, and he used.
This is a man with videos sticking out of his head, as opposed to DVDs. As opposed to like the DVD man,
big old VHS throughout his ears. There was just this bloke who he always used to say things to me like, "Do you like manga?" And I'd say no. He went, "Oh damn, I've got loads of it." And he said,
"I've got Akira here."
And he said, like, "Do you like Star Wars?" And I said, "I'm going to stop you there. You've offered me A New Hope 3 times. I know." He said, apparently he bought like 500 copies of it. And just can't shift them.
I'm going to stop you there. I love that phrase.
I'm going to stop. It's one of the most annoying things. Let me just stop you. You think?
Yeah, because I already know that you're boring me.
But what we used to do is I was studying. I was doing film studies at college, and part of that was to make our own film. And they gave us an allotted time. We had, I think, 2 to 3 hours or something. In which we were allowed to just go off and make a film, and we had that going for about 4 weeks. We had 4 weeks to make a film. Anyway, all these people doing it, and I've been making films for so many years myself that I thought, this is just a waste of time. So me and my friend Tom, we just used to say, right, we're going to go off and film it now. We get in his car, his Mini. We just drive to Tesco, buy some food, and go and sit and watch the tripods. And that's what we did for weeks. And then the week before the film was due, we just went out in the evening, shot the film, edited it the same night, submitted it, and got the highest mark in the class. Yes, that's right. That's right, you know. It just goes to show, you know.
One of my favourite Beatles.
One of my favourite Beatles, you know. You don't have to be, you know. You just believe in what you're doing and your own ability, and you'll be fine. But the point I was making is that he wasn't into cult telly, and he certainly, the thought of watching this would seem silly. But I said, "Oh, come on, it'll be laugh. If it's rubbish, we'll just laugh." But he loved it so much that he bought the DVD. It got him into cult telly, and subsequently, I think he ended up just buying a job lot of Doctor Who of somebody, like about something like 25 to 30 videos, and just watched them himself.
Wow.
So that's a very long anecdote with not really anything, but just to say that it drew somebody in that perhaps wouldn't have liked it.
There's no things in that anecdote.
Just a thing. But apart from that, I've not watched an awful lot. I watched is it Dr. Terror's House of Horrors?
Oh yes.
On
the Steve
Amazon.
Coogan thing.
Is it no the one with Peter Cushing?
Oh, you mean that? Oh, sorry. There was a Steve Coogan send-up of anthology stuff like that with him playing the guy in the.
I bet that's good. No, this the real deal. Great film. Great bit of Hammer work there.
Oh, must watch that.
It's good. It's up on Prime.
Who else is in it?
Christopher Lee. It has our old mate, you know, Roy Castle. He's in that one. Oh, he's in that one.
Centres.
He's soft centres. He's always in it, you know, and he always plays it a bit like that, doesn't he? He's very sort of happy and sort of talking. No, I can't do that, you know. He's a
little laugh in his voice.
He's always a bit, you know, one of those strange cards there. They are tarot cards. Oh yeah, have a nice go on then, you know. Of course, the irony is, actually, I've only just realised, of course, him and Peter Cushing did Doctor and the Daleks. I didn't, watching it through, I just didn't actually think that. I thought, oh, it's Roy Castle from Doctor Who and the Daleks.
Call yourself a fan of Doctor Who and the Daleks? What's
I
the
know.
matter with you? That's the first thing. That's the only thing I know about Dr. Terror's is that those two are in it.
Oh, I know that those two are in Doctor Who and the Daleks, but I just didn't. When I sat down and watched it, I didn't think it. I thought that's Roy Castle from Doctor Who and the Daleks. That's Peter Cushing, who I know and don't need to think is from Doctor Who and the Daleks. But I didn't sit there and think, oh, it's those two. They're back acting together.
What year was it done?
Nick says was yawning.
Sorry, I'm just a tired man. I haven't had enough sleep.
Well, yeah. Sorry, you're still talking. 65 to be precise.
Oh, same year as Doctor Who and the Daleks. I wonder which was done first.
That's a very good point, actually.
Also, you see, Peter Cushing worked with Bernard Cribbins in She.
Yes.
So, you know, it's like they were getting people that he
liked.
Knew. Yes, knew and liked. I don't want anyone I don't like. All you have to do is to
The cakes.
Take the 2 poles.
And I suppose the last thing
are closed by magnetics.
the last thing I'll touch upon is Alan Partridge, which I hope you
I
watched.
forgot I'd watched that. Yeah.
That was absolute cracking bit of telly there. Love Alan Partridge.
This
anyway.
time. It's
This
a
time
beautifully
with Alan
desperate
Partridge.
title, isn't it? But also sounds like The One Show, which is the BBC One evening magazine show.
I thought it was brilliant. I thought the thing about Coogan is everything. Excruciating, yes. The good thing about
the
Coogan
granddad
is with his,
anecdote. That was the thing that really got me.
What one was that? The granddad one.
When he just started telling a story about his
that,
granddad
yeah,
and just ended it by going, "Granddad."
Yeah.
And he almost made himself cry, and it was completely off topic.
There's
He's
that
presenting a magazine
lingering
show,
silence.
folks. Yeah. And when she nicks his jokes, when his co-presenter nicks his jokes as well, and you can see that sort of look on his face, like, no.
That the seething, and that woman who keeps disagreeing with everything he says. You're just disagreeing because anything I say by default, you're going to say the opposite of. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. Right. So,
he gets her to agree to one thing at the end, doesn't he? He goes, "Thank you."
He's like, that peace of mind. But no, it's absolutely class, and I can't wait for next week because a friend of mine, Bill's in it next week and the week after, I believe.
Oh, brilliant!
And so that's going to be great fun. I've heard.
What's he going to be playing? Do you know?
I know that he's playing in next week's one. He's playing like a small part as a member of the public or something.
Right.
Good job. But yeah, great fun. So good to have Alan Partridge back on the box. At the BBC.
Fantastic reviews. I was talking to Tom Baker about it. He was saying, well, it's gone down very well. And I said, I presume you haven't watched it. He said, well, no. Tom doesn't watch television. He just reads the review columns. So he knows all about what's been on TV, but he's never seen it. He's just read about it. It's
That's
weird,
amazing.
So he will engage you on all the latest television. But of course, I didn't see it, he says. Anyway, have you done your...
I think that's done, yeah. I've not watched an awful lot else. So how about yourself?
Well, I've got a feeling I'm missing something, but I just jotted down some stuff. Star Trek Discovery, Sex Education, The Orville, Traitors, The Cassandra Crossing. So Star Trek Discovery, I just want to say it's getting so much better. It's so much more like Star Trek than it used to be, and I'm liking that.
It's been confirmed for Series 3, hasn't it?
Well, good. They're great stories. They're really well written, and I love the character interplay. I think and they're proper high concept sci-fi. I'm loving it.
I need to sort my life out and get back in there with that.
I'm preferring it to the first series. I mean, I got through the first series. Well, as I revealed a few podcasts back, I thought I'd seen the first series until I started to watch the second series and realised that I'd not watched the last episode of the first series. Yeah, loving it. The Orville, which is like a pastiche of Star Trek, that a lot of Star Trek fans are preferring to Star Trek Discovery because it's more like Star Trek The Next Generation. I'm falling out of love with it. I said that to my friend Chris Griffin, who's the Big Finish marketing gnu, and he said he texted back to me and said, "You are dead to me." But it's because it's taking itself seriously, and it was much better when it was funny. And now they're just doing straight Star Trek episodes, but kind of not quite as conceptually sound. I don't know, but you could forgive it before because it was just a bit of a laugh, but now it's getting a bit up itself. I think
repetitive in that respect. Do you think?
And I get a bit funny about. I mean, I'm being unfair because I do lots of things as well. You know, I write and direct and act and what have you. And you know, Seth MacFarlane is the star and the writer and the director. And I don't think I'm just saying this because I know that, but I just think it's suffering a bit that he's doing everything. I'm surprised he's not doing the music and painting the set as well. You know,
I suppose it's that thing. I think it's different when if you're telling a straight story, but if you're doing something like this, where it heavily relies upon his comedic input, I suppose, really, but it's
not. He's not doing any jokes anymore. There's just the odd throwaway line, and you just think, well, it used to be it used to be funnier than this, I thought. But listen, I'm prepared to admit that I'm completely misunderstanding it, and it is a fine piece of television, beautifully executed and with great performances all round, and from Seth MacFarlane too. So I mustn't be too horrid. Did I mention Sex Education last time we were talking about?
I think you did, but you can talk about it again if you like.
Well, I think I hadn't finished watching it last time. Have you seen it yet?
I've not seen Sex Education, no.
Honestly, go watch it. I know you won't want to because it's new and everything you can read about it sounds like it's terrible. But I've convinced a couple of people to watch it who've said, no, it's not for me. And I said, I know, that's what I thought. Go and watch it on Netflix, Sex Education. And they all, the two of them have come back and said to me, wow, just wow.
I'll
The characters and the writing and the acting is just knockout. It's brilliant. But any description you could write about what it's about would put old folks like me off.
But you just took a punt and it paid off.
It was recommended by Jamie Anderson, and you have to take the Jamie Anderson passage seriously.
I'll give it a go then. You
should give it a go. There's a thing that I got, the Channel 4 All 4 newsletter came to me, telling me on my email, there's a thing called Traitors that they reckoned I'd like, which is set at the end of the Second World War, just at the end of the Second World War in Britain. And it's about a woman being recruited to the American Secret Service to sort of spy on the Labour government, or socialist government, as the Americans called it. I've seen one episode and it was very interesting, and I will watch more. Sounds like
a good programme. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's got the bloke in it, I can't remember the actor's name, but who's in the last Men in Black film, who plays the funny creature who can see all of time all at once. Have you seen that?
I've seen the 1 and 2. Is there another one?
Well, yes, there is, and that is brilliant.
Yeah,
they go back to 1969 and the launch of the moonshot and everything. It's fantastic.
They were good films, actually. And, I like
the third one. Watch it, and it's got this crazy time being in it, and it's this guy playing the sort of American spy master, and he's very, very good.
Playing the traitor.
Well, he's not a traitor. He's working. Watch it. I recommend
subjective.
it.
Subjective.
The Cassandra Crossing I mentioned because I just happened to catch that last night on Talking Pictures TV while I was packing my bags in London to come home.
Sorry, I had to do the noise. Was it good? What was it about, the Cassandra Crossing?
It's about a terrible disease that some sort of terrorists get into a laboratory and nick the disease, and then they get all diseased, and then one of them gets away and gets on a train.
Oh no, the fool!
Yeah, the old fool.
The old fool.
And the train is travelling across Europe, and Richard Harris is on board, who's a sort of super duper doctor with Sophia Loren and some other famous people, and it's all about the quarantining of with this train, and it's heading for the Cassandra Crossing, which is unsafe, and Burt Lancaster and a very famous actress whose name I now can't remember are in another section, shot entirely separately from the rest of them, and Burt Lancaster is the military man in charge of the operation, and he's secretly hoping that the train gets to the Cassandra crossing and crashes off the bridge into the water, thereby killing all the people with the disease and wiping out the idea of the disease. But Richard Harris discovers what the cure for the disease is, but wants them to stop the train, but no one will let it stop. They've
jammed it. Yeah,
it's got music by Jerry Goldsmith, and that's the main reason I watched it. It's really over dramatic old nonsense. Every time they keep cutting ahead to the Cassandra Crossing, sort of ages before they're going to get there, and you keep seeing bits of the bridge sort of with bolts free and things creaking and crows hopping around on this mouldy old bridge, and Jerry Goldsmith kind of goes and in his music he makes a noise like a rattly old bridge as well. It's like, shang, 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 shang.
I love a good bit of Goldsmith. So that sounds like my
kind of prototype alien stuff happening,
So that sounds like my kind of movie. I like sort of stuff like that, sort of non-committal, sort of
It's very over dramatic.
Tell you what, bloody lucky that they got on that train. And there just happened to be a good doctor on there who happened to find that,
do you want to try Harris that with his long hair and receding hairline?
Imagine try that on old on Southern Rail No chance, mate. No chance. You just get a clip round the ear and, I don't know, you're pushed off or something. Well, I'm not
anyway, so that's what. Then I'm sure there's something else, but I can't remember.
Well, I think
we ask you to send your emails into podcast@nicholasbriggs.com.
Well, that's a good idea. Let's do that then. Yeah, people out there who like to communicate with words through computer networks can actually talk to us in a very long-winded way by sending a message to the address of podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. And when you send those messages, it can be whatever you like, providing it's not abuse. And we'll read it out, and we'll have a little chinwag about it and hear your thoughts and views on what's going on in the world of cult telly and what you're doing as well.
Do you want to read the first one?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Okay, so this first one was sent... says here, date 2019-03-01-914 from Paul Middleton. Subject, Death to the Daleks podcast. Well, I like that already. Hi, Nick and Benji. As a recent convert to your podcast via the wonders of the Jerry Anderson podcast, yes, do give that a listen. I thoroughly enjoyed the watch-along podcast of Death to the Daleks. I've heard it twice. Once in the car without the visuals, which was quite fun but didn't quite work. The second with. In fact, I went on to watch the whole story. I had forgotten how well this episode was done. The atmosphere is so well captured. What they managed to do with little money in the day was sometimes exceptional. It always brings up the question of what would John Pertwee and Tom Baker have done with the budgets that they have now. Yeah, well, it could have changed everything, couldn't it? You never know. It could retain or lose charm. Nobody in my mind topped Pertwee as the Doctor anyway, probably as he is the Doctor I grew up with. Really looking forward to the Sapphire and Steel podcast. Well, that was last week. This is one of my very favourite science fiction series ever. So stark and obtuse. PJ Hammond's great writing, although he and I never really liked the final ever episode. If he went to the producers today, I doubt he would get funding. Keep up the sterling work, chaps, and thank you for what is now one of my favourite podcasts. Best regards, Paul Middleton. Thank you very much, Paul. It's good to be amongst your podcast Hall of Fame. Thank you ever so much.
That's good, isn't it? Yes, and we totally, as you will already know, we totally agree with you on the whole Sapphire and Steel thing. Yes, now this is interesting. This one's called New Format and was sent on the 25th of February at 6:05 in the morning. Goodness, from Adam Graham. Dear Benji and Nick, I sent some constructive brackets, I hope, close brackets, feedback on the change in the Big Finish podcast format. I assume the change to the Benji and Nick show has been for similar reasons. I actually will say that I think the new format works pretty well with the show split between emails and what you were watching. First, in the old format, I think actually talking about the show would sometimes get short shrift, as whatever the episode was supposed to be about would be condensed to maybe 10 minutes. Now you're discussing each topic. Second, I think it makes things much more interactive, as we have a good flow of you reviewing things and the audience sharing their thoughts on the things you watched. This is a good point, actually. Yeah. Thank you, Adam. Third, I should also think it would make your life less stressful, as you don't have to give up an account. You don't have to give an account for everything you've watched every week. You only come up with something interesting every couple of weeks. I could do that every week, frankly. You could spend an entire week doing nothing but watching Barney songs on YouTube, and no one need know. Oh, okay.
I love you. You love me. We are all one family, I think was what they used to sing. That's certainly what I remember from being young and having to forcibly watch Barney and loathe it.
I never watched it. Finally, if you continued to do a new topic every week, you'd be paying a king's ransom for DVDs. Well, luckily, Network are helping us out with that and giving us some stuff, which is awfully nice of them.
Definitely.
What's their URL again?
Networkonair.com.
That's what it
Double
is.
check it's a comma and not a COA UKer. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble. Yes, it's networkonair.com. Great place, full of great cult DVDs of all kinds.
They usually have a special offer on, don't they?
They certainly do.
Insanely low prices.
I don't want to say any special offers because this is we're recording this backwards in time at the moment, so it could be finished by this point. But you can get so many cool things on there.
Yeah, it will be finished by that.
There'll
be something else. There'll be something else along. Adam continues, my only regret is that no matter what you're doing, I think you should find time to bother Jeremy Anderson. I don't know who Jeremy Anderson is. It's Jamie Anderson. But we can't have everything, can we? Maybe bother him several times a day so that you can have archive bothering Jeremy Anderson to play on weeks you don't get around to it. Yeah, well, quite often he's just not there. In conclusion, while we may be only getting half the podcast content we were last year, it's probably better content overall. Adam Graham, sent from a mostly full glass, he says.
That's a jolly good perspective to have. I think it's always difficult when making changes, and especially because we've done sort of 40 odd podcasts with the same similar format. Ultimately, you hit the nail on the head. It's down to just workload, really. But also, I think in a way, by not doing a weekly thing every week, we can kind of enjoy things more as well. It gives us a chance not to go through too many things. You know, we already tackled 40 odd things in weekly basis, but it just means we can savour them and space them out. And yeah, likewise, it gives you a chance to, if you want to watch it, you've got a good amount of time in there to sit down and get it either in advance or afterwards if you think the review works. So it's kind of a nice little bit of time, a nice little lapse, isn't it?
Well said, Benji.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, we've got another email here from Alex Pass, our good old chum. Says Death to the Daleks commentary. That was on the 24th of the 2nd, 2019 at 17:21, which was also an exceptionally good year. It could have been dreadful. I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
No.
Loving the format shake-up on the latest podcast with the commentary for part 1 of Death to the Daleks. I'd love to hear you guys do this for a few other episodes, not just Doctor Who. Maybe revisit Quatermass and the Pit, or the Star Trek episode Balance of Terror that Nick missed out on the first time round.
That's true, I did, because I was ill.
Maybe get that Jamie Anderson to have a go as well. Yeah, he could get involved, couldn't he? All the best, Big Al.
It's always worth getting Jamie or Jeremy Anderson involved.
Jeremy Anderson, leader of the Labour Party.
Can you have too much of a good thing, is the question asked by Chris Avery, writing in on the 24th of February at 11:35 in the morning. Dear Nick and Benji and Nick, delete as applicable. Delete. I thought I would add my thoughts to the discussion about the changes in the podcast format started in the Big Finish podcast, but I have sent it also to the Benji and Nick show, as I think it equally applicable, as I suspect that the changes in the B and Nick show result from the same time pressures. From my own selfish point of view, I am disappointed in the format changes for both podcasts, as I'm getting less of something I was enjoying. It's a bit like treating yourself to your favourite takeaway for dinner once a week, and the restaurant then telling you that from now on they can only deliver half the order this week. Yes, it is a bit like that. And you'll have to have the rest in a week's time. Smiley emoji. That's my selfish point of view. But of course, I totally understand the reason for the changes. And if it is a choice between the podcast and the output from Big Finish, then it's clear which we would rather have! Maybe, Nick, you could draft in someone else to edit and polish the podcast. Although I understand that may have a cost implication. Yes, it would. Otherwise, perhaps a compromise in that we have a reduced length but retain some of the original format. I think emails once a week would be better, as sometimes, as in this case, you want to respond to a point made in a podcast, but the 2-week gap inevitably makes the discussion less current or sultana. With regards to Benji and the Benji and Nick show, I find the episodes where you don't pick a show to watch and talk about significantly less satisfying. And it feels like effectively 2 different alternating podcasts. But I'm sure you weren't that angry. I'm just characterising you as such. Basically, the problem is you are victims of your own success, as you gave us some things that were amazingly brilliant, and now they're just quite brilliant. Smiley emoji. That's like, just as he sticks the dagger in, he does a little smile. Good night. I will, of course, keep listening. But that's the best news in that email. Yeah. What you're saying, Chris, is very reasonable. Chris Avery, thank you. P.S. Nick, as a contemporary of yours, minus a year, I had to smile at your reference to Russell T Davis's comment about age bringing its friends with it. I've experienced a few of those visitors over the last 18 months and don't want to see any more of them. Now, well, send from my iPad. There we are. Well, I think I might have said that in the Big Finish podcast about, old age, but...
Well, I suppose in some respects, maybe we can have a middle ground where we select an email a week to read out, and that way then at least if somebody's got a point to make, that could be it, and it could be you, and if not, they get moved to the email one. But that could be an idea, something to consider anyway.
It is.
But yeah, we'll certainly think about that anyway, because obviously we totally understand that some people are going to find it convenient, other people are going to feel like they're only getting half a sausage instead of a full sausage, and we've all, if you have a hot dog, you don't want just half bread.
I like to think they're expecting a sausage, not a sausage, a Mars bar.
Ooh,
a Mars bar and an apple.
Have you ever tried a battered Mars bar, Nick?
No.
So it's not particularly good for you, and I stopped eating them when I was probably about 15, because I realised that
15 minutes ago.
Minutes ago, but I used to absolutely love it, because you'd finish school.
What's not to love?
You go down to the local chip shop. You say, "Better Mars bar." I'd say, "Okay." Dips the Mars bar in the batter. It comes out, and of course it's horrifically calorific. Tastes wonderful, but the melted Mars bar in the middle is just to die for. Oh.
They originated in Scotland. I didn't know they did them in this country.
Well, I think it's one of those things that you have to find the right place to do it, don't you? Really, a lot of good things originated in Scotland, like Iron Brew. Yeah,
that's true.
That's
Iron Brew.
Iron Brew. And what else?
Shall I call Jamie Anderson?
Yeah, call him.
Jeremy Anderson.
Jeremy Anderson.
Order! Let's see if he's...
Waiting for the noise.
I haven't given him any warning, so he may just not pick up. I quite often don't give him a warning. Oh. Hello?
Hello, I'm with my mother and Tom, so don't say anything offensive.
I was just going to say hello, Jeremy Anderson, because someone from our podcast keeps calling you Jeremy Anderson.
You may have called the wrong person in that case.
Yes, it did. Listen, we're in the middle of the podcast, but I suppose you want to carry on with your family, don't you?
Well, yeah, it's, having a birthday outing and all that.
I know. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks very much.
He's 34.
What a good year. Good age
Thanks
to be.
for spilling the age beans.
Well, and did you ever watch Sapphire and Steel?
Not really, no.
No, it's very good.
Is it? Would you recommend it?
I really would. So would Benji, wouldn't you, Benji?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's absolute 5 out of 5.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Good. Well, maybe someone will buy it for my birthday. Wink, wink.
Oh, yeah.
Not you.
Oh.
I'll just borrow yours.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a lovely. I hope you're having a lovely time. You have to say that because they're overhearing.
Yeah, it's been lovely so far. Thank you very much.
Have a splendiferous time.
Any particular standout moments, Jamie?
We went to Kew Gardens and had a private tour with a nice man called Keith.
Oh.
And he showed us his favourite tree.
What was it?
Not Keith's tree, is that?
It's true. Yeah.
Keith's tree. What was it?
What was his favourite tree? I forgot. Was it the big oak tree?
Original.
Your old oak tree.
Yeah, it's not a very original choice, is it?
No. Poor Keith.
That's like saying my favourite drink is water, isn't it?
The ubiquitous tree. And we had a really nice meal.
Oh.
Very nice meal. So.
A round of hands of gold.
Yes. You heard that, did you?
Yes, I did. Is that your mother being outrageous?
Yes, your reputation precedes you.
That's all she knows about me, just the fact that there's a particularly nasty cocktail that I like.
But now Mother is unavoidably going to go out on their podcast. You've been recorded saying that, so you're incriminated.
Well, that's brilliant. I am slightly blushing. Right.
Right. I'll go and have my tea now.
Happy birthday. Have a nice
very
tea.
happy day.
Thanks very much. Have a nice podcast.
All right. Cheers, mate. Speak soon. Take care.
Ta-ra.
Bye.
What a nice man.
There you are. There we had a little insight on the Anderson family there. His mum, Mary Anderson, there.
Well, seeing as we didn't get to ask Jamie a question, Nick.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Go.
Okay, so would you...
would
you rather... I love the would you rather question. Would you rather never be delayed or stuck in traffic again, or never get another cold?
I'd go for never getting another cold.
I think that's a very solid answer. I'd probably go the same one, actually.
Yeah, I can put up with being in traffic if necessary, but I avoid it like the plague. I travel at crazy times to avoid rush hour stuff.
Yeah, it's one way of doing it, isn't it? I suppose. I think that's a solid answer, to be honest. To a very, very problem with these questions is some of them are really hard, but all the ones that are sort of radio friendly are the nice ones like that, which are very honest and easy.
I don't know.
Choices.
Some people go mad about traffic jams. They hate them so much. I could put up with a sniffle. The trouble is, colds. It may be just a result of getting old, or the beginning of a survivor's apocalyptic scenario. But I find that colds are getting worse and more frequent.
Or you're getting older and weaker.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it could be that. But I noticed that lots of people I know, young people as well, always seem to have colds because there's so many human beings now, and especially in a small country like this, we're so packed in together.
I think as well,
constantly touching surfaces that other people have touched, and. Yeah.
But also, I think it's down to things like antibacterial soap. I was thinking about this the other day. Nearly all the soap that we use, that we buy now, if you go to the shops to buy soap, it's all kills 99.9% of bacteria.
Yeah.
Which is really great.
Even the good stuff.
Even the good stuff. But also, we're not being exposed to things anymore. When I was young, I'd go and play out on the streets and get dirty. And now, people don't want their children to get dirty and muddy. And I think, in some respect, perhaps we're not exposed to such horrible bacteria, which is probably a good thing, but maybe that lack of exposure does mean that our immune systems aren't as accustomed to bacteria as perhaps it could be.
I think that's certainly possible. I know that's what Jeremy Anderson thinks.
Well, I think it's a very, well, he'd know, with his policies.
What? Just because of Jeremy, it doesn't mean he's Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, who else? Jeremy Hunt, Brett, Jeremy Clarkson.
There you go.
Jeremy.
All these things are possible. No, it's true. I mean, the thing that Jamie said to me is that when you use that antibacterial stuff, it just you were having a Jeremy moment there. It kills all bacteria, including the good stuff that we benefit from, but the first bacteria to come back after that bacteria genocide is the bad stuff, which attacks us. Yeah,
and then we're defenseless.
But our biggest problem is that because we're mixing with loads and loads of people, say on the underground railway network, or tube, as we like to call it in London, with that rubbish Scottish accent, you're constantly holding on to these things that everyone else has held on, and we all, and this is horrible, so look away if you don't want to hear something horrible, but we all have a terrible habit of inserting our fingers into sort of mucous membrane areas of ourselves. I'm mainly talking about the eyes. People pick their eyes quite a lot, because you get dehydrated, and the moment you do that with a bit of bacteria on your finger, you're basically inserting the bacteria straight into your bloodstream.
Well, you only have to watch 28 Days Later with Christopher Eccleston to notice that.
Fantastic.
And he gets right in the eye, doesn't he? Also, another thing that's just occurred to me, actually, talking about touching things, but of course, we all now use technology, computer keyboards, mouses, and telephones, or cell phones, mobile phones. Mobile phones, in particular, are the dirtiest things out there.
They're so dirty.
They're so dirty. But they really are. They are absolute platforms for bacteria and horrible bacteria and things like that. And so maybe
I tend not to share
reason.
People's computers, but of course when I go into the BBC to do my Radio 4 Extra,
You wear gloves.
announcing. I should go in with a pair of rubber gloves,
Big mask.
Welcome to the BBC. Well, I tell you, the next time I go in there, they now do a photograph of you every time to go on your pass.
Gosh.
And the last time they took my photograph, the lady who was taking the photograph made me laugh. And so there's this picture of me kind of... I kind of look like this. I look like, I don't know what, like I'm about to explode or something.
So every time somebody comes up to you and goes, "Excuse me, sir, can I see a pass?" You get it out and they go, "Well, who's that?" And you have to go...
And then
Oh, yep, that's him.
I did that once when I was... I didn't do quite that, but when I was going through... getting on an aeroplane, and my passport then didn't have a beard on.
Oh.
But I'd forgotten about that, and I had a beard, but I had glasses on, which I didn't have on in the passport. And I said to the guy, as he looked at the picture and looked at me in a kind of, sort of way, I went, "Oh, sorry,wi and took my glasses off. I said, "I better take these off." He said, "What, and shave the beard off as well?" I went, "Oh, God, yeah, sorry." He laughed, I was worried about my glasses. I've got a whacking great beard on my face.
Beard going on. It's like when I last used the airport, none of the ruddy things would work. And then when it takes your photo and it analyses you and cross-references it, none of it would work. And it turns out I had a hood on the back, and the hood was blending in with my hair.
Oh, the American ones say, yeah, you must remove, take the hat off. And I was thinking, I did exactly the same thing. Yeah, I thought, I'm not wearing a hat. And then Jason came up behind me and said, "You've got your hood up behind your head."
Typical, isn't it? Typical. He knows. He's international man of mysteries, Jason.
Hood up behind your head. Got the hood up behind your head.
Great.
I don't know what I was doing there. Anyway, this is the end of this podcast.
It is. But the moment has been prepared for.
Next week, what are we doing next week?
We're going to be watching the River Dance. And no, we're not. We are continuing with our quest on the planet Exelon, and shall be visiting episode 2 of Death to the Daleks.
Do you like my Exelon noise?
I loved it. I thought it was really good.
So yes, we'll be doing a commentary on Death to the Daleks, episode 2. Death to the Daleks, in case you don't know.
Can I do my gun noise?
Go on.
You have to have that little gap, the tiny gap in the middle of it. Like.
And what about the Dalek gun that doesn't work?
Tell what we did when we were kids, can't you?
Yeah. Yes, Death of the Daleks. It's a 1974 Doctor Who story starring John Pertwee and Elizabeth Sladen as the Doctor and Sarah Jane.
Yeah, quite.
It's got the Daleks in it. You won't be surprised here. So that's what we'll be doing next week. Don't forget to send your emails in to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com, and we will be. Maybe we'll read out an email next week as well as doing Death to the Daleks. Yeah.
So it could be you.
Right, that's it, isn't it?
Well, I suppose better.
I'm going.
Get nice and close here. Well, from me,
the end.
Benji C, it's good B.
Bye. Pressing stop. Now, ka-chunka.